Good afternoon, everyone. We have quorum, so I would like to start. Please take your seats, everyone. We're starting. So I indicated this morning that we will start with CoP19 COM2 document 9, and then we will proceed through the remaining COM documents in order. So 9 through 14 in order before we return to the rest of our working program. We have 2 hours and 51 minutes to attempt to do that. Everyone, please take your seats. There's a lot of movement and noise in the room. I'd like to get started. Thank you. So we will take COP19 Committee 2 Document 9. I'd like to invite Kenya to introduce the document. Kenya, are you ready to introduce your document?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, and sorry, I was trying to open the document. Madam Chair, further to the direction you gave that we should have some further engagement on document 66.2.2, we did engage with a few parties. We had an engagement with the US and 32 African range states, and we came up with a submission that is already circulated. Madam Chair, further to the submission, we had some further engagement with the members of the EU, and they have provided some edits to what was originally submitted. And we have looked at those edits and accepted a majority of it, and also made some further edits. With your indulgence, I'll want to propose the edits that had been made to the document that is before the COP.
That's fine, Kenya. Please proceed.
Directed to the Standing Committee under the Decision 19.8 AA, after the working group in Para 1, we are including with the mandate provided in Annex 1, to discuss options, Then it continues. And after the comma, after as appropriate, and consider the establishment of a fund for elephant and rhino range states, which can be accessed upon, then the other statement remains. Then in B, the chair of the working group, with the support of the Secretariat, shall convene the initial meeting of its members as soon as practical after AC 76, with the intent of submitting, instead of a report, it is changed to reports, to the 77th, and there's an additional and the 78th meeting of the Standing Committee. And the 78th is added after the 77th, so that it gives it a longer period for discussion. In Para D, the Standing Committee shall prepare and submit to the 20th meeting of the Conference of Parties as appropriate for its consideration after and other wildlife and rhino range states, which can be accessed, again is included, upon non-commercial disposal of the ivory and rhino horn stocks, and delete the words taking into account paragraph 17 and 21 on document 19, doc 66.22. Then directed to the parties, parties are urged to join the intersessional working group and share ideas for alternative sustainable financing solution and mechanism for conservation of elephants and wildlife species as appropriate, full stop. There's a deletion of the rest of the wording. Then directed to parties, intergovernmental and non-governmental organizations. Parties, intergovernmental, non-governmental organizations, and donors are encouraged to support the work of the intersessional working group and sustainable financing for the conservation of elephants and other wildlife as appropriate, full stop. We remove, and particularly the establishment of the fund, it is left at as appropriate. Then on the Annex 1 on the draft mandate, on A, the working group shall discuss options for sustainable financing for the conservation of elephants and other wildlife as appropriate, and consider the establishment of fund for elephant and rhino range state accessible upon non-commercial disposal of the ivory and rhino horn stocks, while delinking the funding from the quantities of ivory and rhino horn in the stockpiles. Full stop. While doing so, comma, is an additional word there, while doing so, comma, then the rest of the words follow. Take into account the elements outlined in document 66.22, the information document 19, information 84, submitted by Kenya, and the working group could also consider information document 14 that was submitted by Secretariat and any other relevant information available to the group. If the working group considers a fund should be established, it should, 1, examine the terms for the fund discussed in paragraph 17 of the document, consider whether any additional terms are needed, including its application to both ivory and rhino horn stocks, and present a set of terms to SC 77. And 2, reflect on the criteria discussed in paragraph 21 of document CoP19 Doc 66.22 for dispersing funds, as well as any additional criteria, and present a set of criteria to SC 77. Madam Chair, I don't know whether I was clear on the revision that has been done. That is the submission I have for now.
Thank you, Kenya. So I'll open the floor to parties to comment on Kenya's proposal and their amendments that they have just read. I see the European Union, followed by Zimbabwe. European Union.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We thank Kenya for their proposal, and we can confirm that we indeed had informal talks with Kenya, as well as with other range states concerned about this new COM document number 9. We have indeed had a look at the document and have proposed changes because we feel that any intersessional work should look at the broader picture of sustainable financing for elephant conservation, which can include the establishment of a fund that's linked to the disposal of ivory stockpiles. We do not want to preempt the outcome of the deliberations of this working group, should it be set up, which is why we have proposed multiple changes to the draft decisions originally proposed by Kenya and now explained by Kenya. We did, however, specify clearly that we feel that there needs to be a buy-in from all relevant range states. It seems that these consultations have not been held, which we regret, as we think this is a missed opportunity. Our support is subject to this buy-in, a wide buy-in of all relevant parties. We will listen attentively to the comments made on the floor, but as the EU and its member states were mentioned in the intervention from Kenya, we wanted to make our position clear from the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. I will take Zimbabwe and then Botswana. Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Good morning, Madam Chair. We wish to thank Kenya, the USA, and the Secretariat Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair. We wish to thank Kenya, the USA, and the Secretariat for their effort in the preparation of this COMDOC. However, we still believe that there is no sufficient justification for the establishment of another fund in addition to the already existing African Elephant Fund. The COMDOC still largely refers to elephants. Therefore, the African Elephant Fund still addresses the elephant conservation efforts. There is still need for further consultations on the issue of establishing this fund, and no evidence of these consultations exists in the document, the current document, despite the fact that the document now seems to have been widened to include other wildlife species. We, however, remain open to further discussions on this matter. As we notice, the document now refers to other wildlife species, which, however, are not yet defined and have not been discussed before. So in summary, we think there's still need for further consultations, particularly with all the range states. I submit, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Zimbabwe. Botswana, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Botswana would wish to note COM2 Doc 9 as presented and amended by Kenya. We would like to reiterate our earlier comments when this matter was discussed in Committee 2. It is unfortunate that there was no consultation with all African elephant range states prior to and during CoP19. There are elements within the proposed decisions which are not acceptable to Botswana, particularly the issue of linking access to the fund to non-commercial disposal of ivory stockpiles. We are also very concerned that the implications of setting up a second fund for elephant conservation and management do not appear to have been taken into account by the proponent. Chair, we are not in a position to agree to the draft decisions as proposed and would therefore be constrained to participate in an intersessional working group. We, however, would wish that this issue remain on the table to be discussed by African range states outside of a working group, and we would be willing and amenable to work with other African elephant range states on an appropriate forum for furthering such discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Botswana. I will take Gabon, followed by Japan. Gabon, you have the floor.
Merci. Merci, Madame la Présidente. C'est bien le Gabon qui a la parole? Oui. Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le Gabon apporte son soutien aux propositions énoncées par le Kenya. En effet, nous encourageons les parties à adopter les décisions et à participer au groupe de travail intercession qui sera ainsi créé pour examiner les possibles mécanismes de financement durable de la conservation des éléphants. Tout ceci pour mener des discussions ouvertes et constructives permettant à tous les pays de l'aire de répartition de protéger et coexister avec les éléphants. Le Kenya a maintenu par sa proposition la discussion ouverte car il vient de dire au secrétariat et à l'Union européenne qu'il ne pouvait pas rejeter l'idée de la condition préalable d'une utilisation non commerciale et que cela pouvait être discuté en groupe de travail. Et avec le cas échéant, je vous remercie.
Thank you, Gabon. Japan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Japan does not support the document CoP19, COM-19.
And also the content amended by Kenya.
Amended by Kenya. Paragraph A of the Annex 1 to the document states that the working group is mandated to consider a solution and mechanism for conservation of elephants and other wildlife species for elephant and rhino range states to assess upon the non-commercial disposal of their government-controlled ivory and rhino fawn stockpiles. Japan does not believe that destruction of stockpiles is the starting point of the solution. We believe that all consents of range states of African elephant and rhinoceros should be thought of this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. I have quite some number of parties wishing to take the floor. I would like to hear from all of you, but I will ask that you keep your interventions as far as possible brief as to whether or not you can support what Kenya has proposed. That will help us get through this. So South Africa, followed by Senegal. South Africa.
Thank you, Chair. We thank Kenya for the proposal, and we do appreciate the need to mobilize more resources to support elephant conservation in African range states. But we want to state upfront and frankly, Chair, that this document is mischievous and divisive. It risks increasing the divisions amongst African elephant range states and widening the gap even further amongst us. We feel that this proposal is being forced down our throats. We have been very cooperative and positive in engaging in all the documents in this COP, but we must state that there can be nothing about us without us. So, Chair, we reject anything that is purported to potentially benefit us without us and without taking the interests of our communities on board who are living with wildlife and bearing the brunt of living with wildlife. We believe our conservation model is working for us, and as well as our wildlife populations, which are a clear demonstration of this success, but we acknowledge that we need sustainable funding streams to take this success to even greater heights. We therefore can't help but wonder whose interest does this fund serve. We also wonder who is making the proposed changes without consultation with affected range states. We believe that this sows some mistrust than confidence in this process. And it's regrettable that this issue is being turned into a numbers game where most of the powerful and influential parties have more say, irrespective of what the affected parties' views are. Therefore, we call, lastly, for a structured, comprehensive consultation process with all the range states. We don't support that proposal for a working group. We also don't support the imposition of this proposal on all African elephant range states. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, South Africa. I will take Senegal and then Eswatini. Senegal, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je sais que le temps vous est très compté, mais c'est une question qui est d'une grande préoccupation pour les pays membres, les pays de l'aide de répartition de l'éléphant d'Afrique. Je suis à ma 12e année, 4 ans de COP, mais le constat est pour moi désolant pour les pays africains, aide de répartition. C'est comme si il existe des pôles négatifs et des pôles positifs qui se repoussent. On n'arrive jamais à accorder nos violents, alors que la ressource est en Afrique. Parfois, on laisse même les États, excusez-moi de l'expression, qui ne sont même pas membres, venir nous commanditer, venir nous guider de ce qu'on va faire. Je crois que nous devrons accorder nos violents de façon à ce que tous les pays de l'aide de répartition participent à ce groupe de travail et qu'on trouve des solutions. Parce qu'on ne peut pas voir une chose et faire son contraire. La vente, la commercialisation de l'ivoire est interdite. Donc, si on peut trouver un fonds pour pouvoir investir dans la conservation et prendre en compte les moyens d'existence des populations locales, le Sénégal applaudit. Mais ce qui se passe, c'est vraiment désolant. Ça fait 12 ans, l'Afrique, entre nous, on a constitué des pôles gauche-droite qui se repoussent. Ça, je crois qu'on doit mettre fin à cela. Merci.
Thank you, Senegal. Eswatini, you have the floor.
Can you hear me? Thank you. Thank you, Chair. In broad terms, and not going into details of the document and what it contains and what it doesn't contain, but I think we need to take a moment and reflect on things. I think we need to look at this document, and I think it's important that we need to recognize that there are challenges to Southern Africa, which have been laid out in this document, and it challenges some of our fundamental issues, which have been discussed at CITES for as long as I've been at CITES. And it cuts to the core of some of our conservation beliefs, all of ours, Southern Africa, and to the elephant range states in the north. There is a need for us to come together, but this needs to be done on equal terms. But one question I have is, what does this document do to address the demand side of this equation? Now, if you look at the principles of supply and demand, there are issues here that don't make sense. So Eswatini, and I know a lot of other countries, will be strongly opposed to the reference of destruction of stockpiles. This is our opinion, and it does not consider the universal principles of supply and demand. Addressing the financing issues, as suggested, may help temporarily, but it still does not address the root causes of this problem. And it's the root causes that we need to address. Otherwise, we'll be back here with the same issues again. We believe that alternative approaches do need to be taken, and they do need to be given a chance. So I do hear quite a lot of what's in that document. We appreciate the thought that's gone into it, and we think some of it must be given a chance. However, this needs to be done on a level playing field.
I'm sorry, Eswatini, that is your time. I'd welcome you wrapping up.
Okay, there's a whole lot more to say, but I think this needs to be done in an intersessional, it needs a start afresh approach, and the document should be rejected in its present form, and this should be reconstituted to include all range states without external influences. Thank you.
Thank you, Eswatini. I will take Togo and then Namibia. Togo.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente. Le Togo a écouté avec intérêt et a apprécié le compte rendu du test amendé par le Kenya. Madame la Présidente, comme vous l'avez suggéré d'être bref, le Togo veut marquer son accord avec le Kenya en soutenant cette proposition amendée. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Togo. Namibia, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. Namibia would like to join others in thanking Kenya for preparing this COP document. We agree that sustainable financing mechanism for conservation is very important. However, Namibia was not consulted prior to the revision of the document by Kenya. We remain open to further engagements regarding sustainable financing mechanism. However, we are not ready to support the decisions contained in this document, nor are we going to participate in the intersessional working group if this meeting decides to form the intersessional working group. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Namibia. I will close my list now. I still have quite a number of parties to go, most of them from Africa, which I think we will all welcome. So I'm closing my list now. I will take Burkina Faso and then Zambia. Burkina Faso.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le Burkina Faso, en tant que pays aire de répartition de l'éléphant d'Afrique, félicite le Kenya pour cette proposition de fonds, de mise en place d'un fonds. Et nous marquons notre accord pour les projets de texte modifiés contenus dans le document. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Burkina Faso. Zambia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Zambia disagrees with the decisions contained in the document, and we also want to put it on record that we're not willing to participate in the working group. Zambia is a major range state of elephants, and we were not consulted when this document was developed. We're a sovereign country, and we are accountable to the people of Zambia. And it is our responsibility to dispose of our ivory in the manner that we deem fit. I submit, Chair.
Thank you, Zambia. I will take Benin and then Niger. Benin.
Okay, merci, Madame la Présidente. Le Bénin, pays de l'aide aux répartitions, voudrait donc soutenir la proposition qui a été faite par le Kenya et pense que l'opportunité d'un groupe de travail représente donc une chance à tous les pays de l'aide aux répartitions de se retrouver et de pouvoir échanger convenablement, sans pression, pour pouvoir donc dégager les consensus requis, parce que le Bénin demeure convaincu que la finalité de nos assises et de nos réflexions ici, c'est justement pour la conservation des espèces. Donc une fois que les divergences seront aplanies, au final, nous aurons le résultat qui est celui de la conservation de nos espèces. Donc, soutient le document et encourage toutes les parties à pouvoir participer, surtout de l'aide de répartition de l'éléphant, à pouvoir participer donc à ce groupe de travail. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Benin. Niger.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente. Le Niger faisant partie de l'ère de répartition remercie le Kenya pour la présentation de ces documents. Madame la Présidente, il n'y aura pas de division entre nous. On va s'entendre à travers un groupe de travail. Madame la Présidente, toutes les propositions faites par le Kenya rentrent dans le cadre de la conservation. Il n'y a rien de division entre nous. Nous militons tous pour la conservation de l'éléphant et dans l'aire de répartition. Nous sommes unifiés nous avons la chance d'être unis par cette espèce qui est l'éléphant, qui fait que nous sommes là en train de discuter sur cette espèce. Je ne vois pas pourquoi on n'arrive pas à s'entendre. Alors qu'il y a des propositions faites, ce qui est important qu'on se réunisse pour pouvoir dégager ce qui est bien et pour pouvoir vraiment aligner dans la droite ligne de la conservation de cette espèce. Avant même nous, on avait beaucoup. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes dans un état de stress. Il n'est pas dit que demain, que la tendance ne va pas changer. C'est pour cela qu'il est important de s'aligner à des décisions de durabilité qui vont permettre au pays de pouvoir s'inscrire dans la même démarche. Nous nous alignons aux propositions faites par le Kenya. Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Niger. The last two speakers on my list are the United States and Tanzania. United States. Sorry, technicians, I had given the United States the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The United States appreciates Kenya raising this important issue. It is clearly one that we all need to discuss. We believe that there are multiple pathways to addressing the linked issues of African elephant conservation, human-elephant conflict, and ivory stockpiles. However, we also believe strongly that a way forward must include close consultation with the range states who have shared their concerns with us this afternoon. The United States was prepared to support this document if consensus could be reached, but it appears that we all have some work to do, so we are unable to recommend adopting the proposal at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, United States. And finally, Tanzania.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving Tanzania the last opportunity to speak on this. United Republic of Tanzania wishes to reiterate its position in the previous document that was submitted by Kenya. Tanzania believes that sustainable financing of elephant conservation is very crucial, and Tanzania cannot dispute that fact. However, as South Africa made it clear, elephant range states were not consulted at all during the preparation of the proposal and also during the review process. Tanzania, which holds the third largest population of elephants, feel the need to look at this matter more broadly, as the current proposal really divides the African elephant range state rather than bringing them together in order to develop the common solution for the conservation challenges that we are facing in managing this largest population of elephants we are having. The cost of living with elephant is increasing every day because of human-elephant conflict, which takes the lives of many people in our region. Therefore, Tanzania does not support the adoption of this draft decision, neither will it participate in the intersectional working group, if the Conference of Party adopts this draft decision I submit.
Thank you, Tanzania. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for the time to consider where to go. I am not seeing consensus on Kenya's proposal or their amendments. In thinking about the best way to proceed, and in consultation with the Secretariat, I did wonder if there was any parties who might like to consider, given that some of the comments have been about the specificity of the development of a fund and the specificity to particular species, and also about the need for broad consultation. I wondered whether there might be interest in considering the Secretariat's proposed draft decisions, which they articulate in this document, 66.2.2 in their comments, so it's on the page 7. I'm offering this, just listening to you all and understanding from you that options for sustainable financing appears to be important to everyone, but we have not reached consensus in this particular circumstance on the way to do that. So I will take party comments on that as a way forward. We will try to keep this limited. It's just a suggestion to see if we can move forward in a constructive way. But if that's not acceptable, we will consider another way forward. Kenya.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, we have listened carefully to parties in this meeting. Similar discussions were held when we were setting up the African Elephant Fund at CoP19. There was a lot of resistance, particularly from our colleagues that wanted to have a second off-sale of ivory. The coalition parties of over 30 African range states insisted of having the fund. History be told, this fund now is benefiting all the range states. It's functional, but is not able to serve all the challenges we have, including human-elephant conflict, connectivity issues, impact of climate change, and also issues of abundance of elephants. Madam Chair, it was our view that an intersessional working group was a consultative process. We are not setting this second fund, and I did indicate that we are trying to raise the profile of the issue of elephants, having divided us as range states. Throughout the COPs, we have just not allowed the sale of stockpiles. I don't know, by stopping this process, whether we are waiting to see another stockpile request sale in 2025. Madam Chair, when we did set the African Elephant Fund, we wanted it owned by the range states. I sat in the committee that defined the terms of reference, the structure of running it, and even where to host it. It was our intention that this fund we are talking to be run by range states and parties, be set within the same framework of the African Elephant Fund, but also help serve the Asian range states. I see, and I think I'm divided here, because the option you are giving is like now removing the proposal that we want to own it, to get it to the Secretariat and get it to consultant to run the process. And that is what we are differing with. And I rather get a process where we can see the intersessional working group of a standing committee to be a consultative process. And because all regions are represented there, and we can say the working group works in consultation with the range states affected, then that scope is expanded. So I really share in very honest opinion and the intention of Kenya, and I think with the 33 other African range states, is that we are just expanding the scope of the existing fund. It's not enough. It's supporting $50 here or there. We are talking of huge impact. We need money. The issue of wanting to sell is because you need money. We are saying, can we get way of being compensated for having stockpile? We don't want it. It's a contradiction. So, Madam Chair, in short, we will not support the secretariat approach to the sustainable financing. We'll go a long way of, I don't know how it will be. We are imagining an intersessional working group is a form of consultation process. We stand guided. We still stand by that. And we seek your guidance, but we are not in a position to support what the Secretariat had proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenya. I will take one or two more interventions. I'm seeing a few parties. So for the parties that have already supported, we have noted down all of the support for Kenya's proposal. And Kenya has reiterated their proposal, that they would still like to go with their proposal. I don't think that we need to hear repeated views on the proposal because we have collected all of those. So any parties who would like to add their thoughts, noting we have recognised your position on the Kenya proposal, I will take a couple more parties, but if we start to hear repeated perspectives, I will have to reconsider. Congo, you have the floor.
Oui, merci Madame la Présidente pour la parole. Le Congo soutient la proposition du Kenya.
So I did want to give Congo the floor because I had not heard their perspectives before. The remaining states on my list I have heard from. I will try. I will try again for one or two more parties, but it may be that I need to reconsider the best approach here. South Africa.
Thank you, Chair. South Africa is not in support of the Secretariat's proposal because it's narrow in approach. It doesn't consider a wide range of options. Thank you.
Thank you, South Africa. Those are the types of interventions I am looking forward to. Eswatini.
Thank you, Chair. As I see it, we have many common concerns and problems. Therefore, there is common ground. And when there's common ground, there's room for progress. Given this, there's always a need for proper and inclusive consultation, which I think in this instance, unfortunately, has been wanting. So my suggestion is that we divorce ourselves from this document and we look at establishing a new process which is inclusive and which is consultative to the degree which is required, and it's delinked from this document. This must be a process by Africans, for Africans, for Africa's elephant. And if we can go forward on something like that, where we don't challenge each other's principles of conservation, the way we've all know have worked, there may be a way forward. That's my suggestion.
Thank you, Eswatini. Okay. I think, reconsidering my way forward, I don't hear particular support for my suggestion that we consider the Secretariat's decisions. Given Kenya's intervention, I think that we are going to have to vote on Kenya's proposal with the amendments that they read in this afternoon. So, technicians, if you could clear my list. Regrettably, I've tried to give as many parties the floor to explain their views. So it is my proposal that we vote on whether to adopt Kenya's proposal. Okay, this is a vote on, United States before I start.
Thank you, Chair. I wonder just a suggestion, and perhaps this is a question for Kenya, but it might be possible for the parties to simply note the document in the summary record rather than taking this to a vote. Thank you.
Kenya, I will give you an opportunity to respond to that. Kenya?
Madam Chair, I want to appreciate the comments from the US and also listening to the affected range states, particularly those with the stockpiles, and have been wanting to dispose, and it's a cost, including Kenya that hosts almost 90 tons of ivory. Madam Chair, with your indulgence, maybe if I can suggest a language in one that's subject to funding, the African elephant and Asian elephant range states could.
I'm sorry, Kenya. I'm not clear. The US has asked whether you would accept that we would just note your document. We've heard your amendments. I've proposed that we vote because I'm not prepared to make a call on what the committee's perspective is. So, Kenya, I would ask you to respond to the US's suggestion. Thank you.
Chair, I did take hard what US proposed was just to take note, but we were trying to get an action from the COP because we feel without an action, then, Madam Chair, we are back to 2025 with the same subject on elephants. So we were just trying to think through what that action will be that could bring us together. If it is not the working group, then it's a meeting of range states affected that can discuss BC as commended there outside the Standing Committee Working Group, because it's the working group that the team here is rejecting. I submit, Chair.
Thank you, Kenya, and I do appreciate your attempt to offer another way forward. But I do think that we need to vote on your proposal now. So as the chair, I will call a vote on this proposal. I think that that is the most efficient use of our time. I do note several, particularly range states, calling for consultation, including outside or freshly, either outside of CITES or outside of the Standing Committee, or a fresh approach. So we will note those comments, but I will call a vote on Kenya's proposal as amended. So this is a vote for CoP19 COM2 document 9 as amended by Kenya, submitted and amended by Kenya, on the basis of document CoP19 62.2. The voting type is by normal vote. The vote of the European Union will be cast by the individual member states. Since this is a vote on substantive matter, the decision will be adopted by a 2/3 majority. Thank you, technicians. Parties, you have 40 seconds to cast your vote. The ballot is open now. Technicians, please show the result on the main screen. So the proposal is not adopted by a 2/3 majority. Technicians, please display the individual votes of the parties on the screen now. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The EU and its member states voted against this proposal, even though our suggested amendments were taken on board, because we were very clear in our position that the buy-in from all range states is necessary from the beginning. And we heard several range states clearly stating that they would not participate in a working group if it is forced upon them in this manner. We do note the wide interest to further discuss this matter, and we suggest this element could be taken up in the dialogue meeting, which we hope will be agreed upon in plenary. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. And with that, I will move on to CoP19 Committee 2 Document 10. In session Document 10 on draft decisions, specimens produced through biotechnology, draft decisions of the Conference of the Parties, produced by the United States. United States, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This COM document, document CoP19, COM 2.10, provides the edits to the draft decisions concerning specimens produced through biotechnology that we provided during our oral intervention the other day in this committee in relation to document CoP19, Doc 47. It also includes an addition from Bolivia, which is a new subparagraph 13 concerning, that reads, whether issues of traditional knowledge associated with genetic resources, as well as the benefits arising from their utilization by indigenous peoples and local communities, may be associated with flora, which may be associated with flora and fauna should be treated differently. With regard to the US edits, we believe that our draft decisions as outlined in this document, as edited in this document, provide a revised way forward with regard to consideration of these issues during the next intersessional period in order to ensure a manageable scope of work with a focus on updating and developing and updating guidance for CITES implementation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, United States. Parties, if you would like to comment on COP19, COM2, Document 10. I have the European Union, followed by the United Kingdom. European Union.
Thank you, Chair. The European Union and its member states would like to thank the United States and Bolivia for sharing their proposed amendments in an in-session document. This greatly facilitated our assessment. We can agree with most of the proposed changes, except on two issues. One issue concerns a general point. The changes focus the mandate on reflecting on guidance materials and documents. This is agreeable to us, but we would like to leave the door open for the Standing Committee Intersessional Working Group to also propose changes to resolutions. We therefore propose to add at the end of point 19AA small c, or changes to any pertinent resolutions. With regard to the proposal by Bolivia for point 19AA small 13, we are not sure that we fully understand the connection to CITES matters. We are aware that genetic resources from range states can play a role in the production of products by processes that can be described as biotechnology. But issues of access and benefit sharing belong to the forum of other international treaties. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. United Kingdom.
Thank you, Chair. We'd like to thank the US for pulling together this ComDoc. The proposed amendments seem to improve the clarity of scope of the intersessional work and the process that might follow. We can also support the additional amendment by the EU. On 19AA, paragraph A, little x, 3 I's, We also share concerns that this covers issues that are not within CITES remit, and we'd prefer this was omitted. Thank you.
Thank you, United Kingdom. United States, you have the floor again.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to align ourselves with the comments from the United Kingdom and the European Union. Thank you.
Thank you. That is helpful. So I do not have any other parties requesting the floor. So with that, I think that was a useful discussion, and thank you, United States, for pulling together this document on my request so that we could see all your edits on the page. With that, it's my conclusion that the committee agrees to COP19 Committee 2.10 with the addition of the in 19AA paragraph C, the addition of or changes to any pertinent resolutions at the end of the paragraph. There's also an consequential editorial amendment there to add a comma after guidance materials and strike or. And I conclude from the comments of the EU, the UK and the United States that we will not adopt the paragraph 19AA A little 8, Roman 8. Thank you, committee. Sorry, it's not 8, it's 13. Just to be clear, XIII, little Roman. So we will move on to COP19 Committee 2, Document 11, CITES and Forest, Draft Decisions. This document has been prepared by the working group on the basis of COP19, Document 19 and our discussions. I'm afraid I don't think I know who chaired this working group. United Kingdom, thank you very much for chairing the working group. United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Working Group for CITES and Forests, item COP19 Doc 19, met on Monday the 21st of November in the afternoon. I would like to thank the members of the Working Group for an informative and engaging discussion on the matter of CITES and forests. Thanks to these discussions, we now have a clearer understanding of the intent of this document, which is to develop a strategic focus informed by the expertise of the scientific committees on the role the Convention plays in the contribution of forests, which are currently a global climate change and biodiversity focus. These decisions will allow us to undertake a study which will enable reflection in the next intersessional period on the suitability of, amongst other aspects, having a strategic resolution on CITES and forests. I thank my fellow working group members for their timely and concise responses. I endeavoured to include all amendments in line with the majority agreed focus and scope as discussed in the working group, and hope that the document we are currently reviewing reflects this accurately. The working group recognized that CITES works on species-specific matters of trade for the conservation and survival of fauna and flora. It also recognized that species do not live in isolation, but as part of ecological systems, and as such, CITES does play a role in the conservation of ecosystems to a degree. The working group agreed to take a stepwise approach in determining CITES' contribution to ecosystems, as they are very large. With regard to the scope of the draft decisions as originally presented, we sought a focus on animal and plant species. And based on further clarification by the Secretariat in the working group, on the immediate purpose of the initiative, the working group agreed to revise the scope of the decisions to focus particularly on CITES-listed tree species at present, with the possibility to consider a broader focus to incorporate mandates relevant to other CITES-listed plant and animal forest species in the future. With this in mind, Madam Chair, I invite the committee to adopt the draft decisions on CITES and forests contained in the in-session document CoP19, COM211. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, United Kingdom. Parties, I will take your comments on COP19, COM211. I will take New Zealand and then Australia. New Zealand, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. New Zealand thanks the working group for preparing this document, which we support. And I note our particular support for the reference to forests that it contains. In our view, restricting this work to CITES-listed trees would mean we are missing many important aspects of forest ecosystems, including, for example, CITES-listed epiphytic orchids and the animals that have pollination, seed dispersal and nutrient cycling functions. We support the proposed text as an initial step and consider the future expansion of this work to incorporate other forest species, including fauna, as a critical next step in developing an effective and truly strategic resolution with a focus on CITES and forests. Thank you.
Thank you, New Zealand. Australia, followed by the United States. Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Australia fully supports the document put forward by the working group. It's important that we recognise the strategic focus on forests in CITES and expand this to look at other forest species in the next steps of this work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Australia, United States, and then Brazil. United States.
Thank you, Chair. The United States wishes to thank the working group members, the Chair, and Secretariat for their inputs to our discussions. With the further understanding from the Secretariat, we are satisfied with an effort to develop a strategy to assist the Secretariat in mobilizing resources for CITES implementation. The revised decisions in this document reflect a compromise that we feel sharpens the scope and purpose for this work. As such, we support the revised draft decisions as presented in COP19, COM211. Thank you.
Thank you, United States. I will take Brazil. Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brazil thanks the working group members and the Secretariat for this document and aligns itself with the draft decisions reviewed by the work group as they establish a central objective to support the implementation of CITES mandates related to forest-listed species. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Brazil. I have Senegal and then the European Union. Senegal.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le Sénégal soutient ce document en ce sens que la CITES ne saurait s'intéresser seulement aux espèces inscrites dans ces annexes, ce qui aurait une erreur et une mauvaise approche au plan écologique. La forêt, c'est tout un ensemble d'enjeux, car s'il est admis que le sol, c'est le support basal de la flore et de la faune, mais la flore constitue un habitat important pour la faune aérienne. Merci.
Thank you, Senegal. European Union.
Thank you, Chair. The EU and its member states thank the working group and its chair and the Secretariat for the work done, and we do support the outcome of the work. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. I'm so far hearing a lot of support for the draft decisions in this document. I will take the final two parties on my list, Guatemala and then Chile. Guatemala, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. Guatemala agradece al grupo de trabajo y apoya lo contenido en el documento, particularmente porque creemos que es importante evitar la duplicidad de esfuerzos, pero sí también creemos en que hay que buscar apoyos conjuntos que permitan buscar financiamiento dirigido a la aplicación de las CITES para las especies arbóreas Muchas gracias, señora presidenta.
Thank you, Guatemala. And finally, Chile. You have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Chile apoya este proyecto de resolución. Sin embargo, quisiéramos agregar una palabra en la decisión 19CC, dirigida al Comité Permanente, en la letra B, donde dice, sobre la base de lo anterior, estudiar opciones que concuerden con la visión estratégica de las CITES. Quisiéramos que se agregue antes de la visión estratégica, se pusiera que concuerden con el mandato y la visión estratégica de CITES. Se agregue el mandato. Gracias.
Thank you, Chile. And with that small amendment, I conclude that we agree to the draft decisions on CITES and forests outlined in COP19 Committee 2 Document 11. So we will move to COP19 Committee 2 Document 12, rhinoceroses, draft decisions of the Conference of the Parties developed on the basis of document COP19 Doc 75 Rev 1. This document has been prepared by the working group. I'd like to invite the chair of the working group to introduce the document. United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Let me begin by thanking the members of the working group for a rich and constructive discussion and for the excellent support of the Secretariat. As requested, we considered the changes proposed by the UK to decisions 19CC, 19DD and 19EE. And, whilst there was a recognition across members of the importance of working together and sharing information, there were also concerns, including on increased burdens and which parties should be included. As a result, we were unable to reach a shared view on the proposed amendments to these draft decisions, and so the working group concluded that the proposed draft decisions in document COP19 Doc 75 Rev 1 should be presented for agreement without further amendment. These are reflected in COP19 Com2 Doc 12 in front of this committee now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, United Kingdom. So, parties, I will open the floor. So in opening the floor to parties, I would remind everyone that we had some significant discussion on this item when we first introduced it, and that we did adopt a number of the decisions in the document. These were the 4 decisions that we sent to the working group to consider. So I would ask parties to limit their interventions specifically to the report that has come back from the working group. I will take Vietnam and then the United States. Vietnam.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much, the UK as the chair of the working group. Related to the document, Vietnam thinks that to implement the activities in the decision 19DD in the document, there are only 4 countries to implement those activities that is not feasible. So instead of 4 countries, Vietnam proposed to be on the source, transit, and final destination country to implement the decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Vietnam. United States.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As outlined by the United Kingdom in the introduction to this COM document, following discussion during 2 meetings of the in-session working group on document CoP19 Doc 75 Rev 1, the working group agreed to support the Secretariat's original language for draft decisions 19.cc through 19.gg found in Annex 3 to the document. While we welcome the instruction contained in draft decision 19.gg directing the Secretariat to report to the Standing Committee on the CITES Rhinoceros Enforcement Task Force meeting, we are concerned that parties broadly will not again consider the measures parties are taking to address the ongoing conservation crisis posed by poaching of and illegal trade in rhinoceroses until COP20. However, we are also mindful of the concerns raised by parties in the working group about the imposition of additional reporting requirements on these issues. Therefore, we propose the following language to address both concerns in order to ensure that the Standing Committee retains oversight of a serious and dynamic issue, that we don't delay in addressing this conservation until COP20. So this is an additional draft decision that we would recommend, and it's directed to the Secretariat to read: the Secretariat shall examine the implementation of Resolution Conf 9.14 Rev COP 17 and decisions 19.cc, 19.dd, 19.ee, and 19.gg regarding measures to address the illegal killing of rhinoceroses and the trafficking of rhinoceros horn. And B, report to the 77th and 78th meetings of the Standing Committee. Then there would be an additional instruction included in 19.gg to consider these reports. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, United States. So thank you, everyone. I do not have any more comments on this document. So on that basis, I think that we will agree to the draft decisions outlined in COP19 COM2 12 with the additional decision from the United States and the additional instruction to the Standing Committee to consider the reports that are referred to in the United States new decision. We will figure out the numbering once we realign the decisions, but that's the conclusion that I take. And in case I didn't get to it, because the Secretariat are very particular about this, if I did not delete decisions 18.110 to 18.115 when we considered this the last time, I conclude that we do that. Maybe we've done it twice. So I will move us on once more to COP19, COM2 document 13. I've done 12. Wildlife crime enforcement support in West and Central Africa. Again, draft decisions for the Conference of the Parties. Prepared on the basis of document COP19, document 36.1 and 36.2. I'd like to invite the chair of the working group to introduce the document. Belgium, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On document 36.1 and 36.2 on wildlife crime enforcement support in West and Central Africa, the working group had fruitful discussions during two gatherings on the 21st and the 22nd of November. The working group was attended by several parties: Austria, the EU, Ghana, Japan, Liberia, Nigeria, Senegal, Tanzania, UK, and the US, and several observers. I want to thank them for their active participation. The mandate of the group was to consider the amended decisions proposed by the CITES Secretariat in document 36.1, taking into account the deliberations at Committee 2. After the members of the group proceeded with the identification of any other possible gaps and discussed the methods of funding. The result of these discussions are reflected in ComDoc 2 number 13 for your approval. The document was agreed by consensus, and the working group also agreed to delete the decisions 18.88, 18.89, 18.92, and 18.93 as they have been implemented. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Belgium. Parties, I will open the floor, noting that I'm taking silence as support, so I will take any other comments. I see Benin asking for the floor. Benin, you have the floor.
Okay. Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le Bénin souhaite féliciter le groupe de travail pour les résultats obtenus et qui sont reflétés donc, dans le document COP19 COM 2.13. Nous considérons que les projets de décision révisés reflètent bien les priorités régionales, en particulier concernant la nécessité d'étudier la façon de renforcer la coordination entre les pays sources, les pays de transit et les pays de destination. Nous nous réjouissons tout particulièrement de la décision chargeant le comité permanent de revoir ce qu'il faut mettre en place pour renforcer le financement de l'application de la CITES et du travail de lutte contre la criminalité, donc pour soutenir les efforts qui sont déjà faits au niveau de nos États. Nous avons, lors de nos discussions à la présente COP, décidé d'inscrire un très grand nombre d'espèces supplémentaires à la CITES. Et la mise en place de ce fonds s'avère urgent pour s'assurer que nous puissions mettre en œuvre ces inscriptions convenablement. Le Bénin se réjouit de participer à toute discussion dans l'intersession. Le Bénin soutient également donc pleinement les décisions proposées par le groupe de travail dans le document qui vient de nous être présenté par la Belgique. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Benin. I have the United States. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United States thanks the parties who participated in this working group for our productive discussions and thanks Belgium for its work in chairing the working group. The United States supports the draft decisions that the working group put forward in COP19 COM 2.13. The United States has a few editorial changes to recommend in order to correct some references based on revisions made in the working group and to clarify certain issues. In particular, the United States recommends the following changes. First, in Decision 18.91, Rev COP 19, we recommend revising the list of decisions whose implementation parties, intergovernmental organizations, and non-governmental organizations are encouraged to support. We recommend the word decisions, adding an S after 19AA, deleting the term subparagraph D after 19BB, insert the term subparagraphs A and B after 19DD, add S and add subparagraphs A, B, and before subparagraph C, so that the list would read, the implementation of decisions 19AA, 19BB, paragraphs A and B, 19CC, 19DD, paragraphs A, B, and C, and 18.90 Rev CoP 19. Second, in the decision 19BB, paragraph C, we recommend revising the list of decisions that address activities that the West and Central Africa parties may wish to prioritize to correspond to the list in decision 18.91, as just revised. We recommend after 19CC, insert comma, after 19.DD paragraphs to insert subparagraph A, and after 19DD paragraphs A, B, and C, insert and 18.90 Rev CoP 19. So that the list would read, activities referenced in decisions 19.AA, 19.BB, paragraphs A and B, 19CC, and 19DD, paragraphs A, B, and C, and 18.90 Rev CoP 19, and present those. Okay. Third, in decision 19.DD, paragraph B, insert the phrase subject to external funding at the start of the paragraph, so that it reads, subject to external funding, work with IQIC. Fourth, in decision 19.DD, paragraph D, add decision 19CC by after decisions 19.AA, insert comma and delete the word and, after 19BB, insert 19CC so that it reads, implementation of decisions 19AA, 19BB, 19CC, and 18.90 Rev CoP 19. Fifth, in decisions 19DD, subparagraph E, we propose clarifying the topics for the reporting by inserting after decisions 19DD the following. Paragraphs A, subparagraph A, B, and C, and the responses to the notifications in decisions 19DD, paragraph D, so that it reads, on the implementation of decision 19DD, paragraphs A, B, and C, and the responses to the notifications in decisions 19DD, subparagraph D. And finally, in decisions 19EE, paragraph C, after 19DD, delete the phrase 19EE, paragraphs A and B, so that it reads, the Secretariat in accordance with decisions 19DD and the rest of the decision to remain the same. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, United States. I kept up with those. I'm not seeing any other requests for the floor. So with, I think, those helpful reference amendments to the decisions that the US has provided, I conclude that we agree to the new draft decisions on wildlife crime enforcement support in West and Central Africa outlined in COP19 COM2 Document 13. So I will turn us to our final COM doc, COP19 Committee 2, Document 14. Budget and Work Programme for 2023 to 2025. Draft resolution of the Conference of the Parties, which has been prepared on the basis of documents COP19 7.1, 7.2, 7.3 and 7.4 after discussion in our first session. I'd like to invite the Chair of the Budget Working Group to introduce the document. Liechtenstein, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Budget Work Group has met at 7 occasions. As mandated, the following documents on the agenda items 7 and 8 were reviewed. 7.1, Administration of the Secretariat. 7.2, Report of the Executive Director of UNEP on administrative matters. 7.3, Financial Reports for 2020-2022. 7.4, Budget and Work Program for 2023-2025. And Item 8, Language Strategy. The working group included party representatives from Australia, Argentina, Cambodia, China, Czech Republic, France, Germany, Japan, Kuwait, New Zealand, Saudi Arabia, Switzerland, Uganda, United Kingdom, and United States of America. For the deliberation of Agenda Item 8, Language Strategy, Arabic, Russian, and Chinese-speaking delegations joined the group for 2 sessions. I would like to thank the working group representatives for the hard work, good spirit, and willingness for compromises during its sessions. The heartfelt thanks of the group go to UNEP and the CITES Secretariat for the support rendered. I am happy to report that the working group has reached consensus on Agenda Item 7.4, and thus the next in the square bracket in para 44 can be deleted. I thank the party which brought up this issue for compromising. The draft resolution on financing and the costed program of work for the Secretariat for the triennium 2023-2025, presented in session document COP19 COP2 document 14 has been posted on the website. The budget scenario proposed for adoption is based on the scenario of zero nominal growth, with some adjustment for the projected salary costs and for the trade, monitoring and support activities by UNEP CMC. With this addition, the overall proposed budget will be 6.1% higher compared to the current triennium 2020-2022. To increase the capacity of the Secretariat to accommodate with tasks directed by the COP, we also propose a drawdown from the trust fund balance of $920,000 to continue to fund 2 temporary positions for the next triennium. For your information, the fund balance is healthy and allows for this drawdown. The working group also proposes to use $300,000 from the collected registrations fees from observers, organizations, and international visitors. The group was aware of the wishes from the COP committees for funding of other items by the core budget, but we were not able to accommodate this, as those activities will be therefore have to be funded by the voluntary trust fund in the next triennium. parties accordingly are invited to contribute generously to this trust fund. On agenda item 8, language strategy, we did not come to a conclusion. I would like to hand this agenda item back to you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, this will complete my report on those two agenda items. I submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair of the Budget Working Group. So I will open the floor to parties on CoP19 Committee 2 Document 14. Germany, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Since it's the first time that we speak as an individual party, the German delegation would like to thank Panama for their hospitality and also congratulates you, Chair, for a very effective chairing of this meeting. On this item, Germany would like to thank the participants of the Budget Working Group for their efforts and the Secretariat for preparing the proposals for this new budget scenario and the draft budget resolution. On the resolution itself, we would like to propose an amendment in paragraph 4 regarding observer fees. As already mentioned, in the working group and through written feedback to the chair and the members of the working group, Germany would like to keep the existing practice of past trienniums and adjust this paragraph as follows. Delete the part that says, I quote, for the reduction of parties' annual contribution, end of quote, and delete the words, add the words, quote, at the end of the sentence, quote, as was done in the last triennium at the end of the paragraph, and then the paragraph would read, approves the use of $300,000 from the accumulated registration fee for observers and international visitors for the triennium 2023 to 2025, as was done in the last triennium. This allows for flexibility for the Secretariat, as we had it in the past. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Germany. I have the Czech Republic and then Bahrain. Czech Republic.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. The Czech Republic would like to thank the Budget Working Group for their efforts and the development of the proposals regarding a new budget scenario for the next triennium. We endorse the newly developed zero nominal growth scenario with a 6% increase. The Czech Republic also supports the proposal of Germany to delete the part of a sentence in the draft resolution, paragraph 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Czech Republic. I did have Bahrain on my list, but I do not anymore. Bahrain, I did offer to give you the floor. If you'd like the floor, please press your button. Okay, I do have two more parties requesting the floor now. Chile, followed by Kuwait. Chile.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Agradecemos el trabajo realizado por el grupo para lograr este acuerdo. Nosotros hubiéramos querido que se hubiera presentado una propuesta de crecimiento nominal cero, efectiva a las partes, como se señalaba, en principio se anunciaba en el documento original, y podríamos acompañar la propuesta, no podemos acompañar la enmienda propuesta por Alemania. Gracias.
Thank you, Chile. Kuwait, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just asking for a clarification as the chair of the budget subcommittee announced that document 8 didn't reach an agreement. Shall we go and discuss this subject now or after discussing this document? Thank you.
Thank you, Kuwait, and thank you for asking for that clarification. My preference, if it's at all possible, is to come back to the language strategy as a separate, contained piece. I think that would be that would allow us to have a more effective discussion based on what I've heard from the chair of the budget working group. So with the indulgence of parties, that's what I would propose to do. Please rest assured it is still on our agenda to come to. So if it is possible to continue our discussions just on the resolution as it stands, that would be helpful. Kuwait, is that suitable? Is that acceptable?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kuwait. So I will take the next two parties on my list. I have Argentina. Argentina, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señora Presidente. La Argentina apoya el documento elaborado en el Grupo de Trabajo sobre el Presupuesto. Quiere agradecer la tarea del presidente del Grupo de Trabajo, como así de los países que participaron del mismo. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Argentina. I did have two parties on my list, and I only had Argentina. So seeing no more requests for the floor, I will comment on Germany's amendment. So I did hear support for that from the Czech Republic. I did not hear support for Chile's proposal. So I conclude that we support Germany's amendment to the draft resolution. So acknowledging for clarity that we will come back to the language strategy. I want to be very clear, we are not moving on from the language strategy. I conclude that we can adopt the amendments, the new draft resolution of the Conference of the Parties, Budget and Work Program 2023 to 2025, outlined in CoP19, Committee 2, Document 14. So Committee 2, that is all of our docs that we will consider. We have 1 more hour to go. So I will come back to our working program and we will get as far as we can through it. Before we broke for lunch, we were considering document 78, tortoises and freshwater turtles. So I would like to start there. After that, I would like to go to document 29.3, Malagasy palasanders and rosewoods. At the request of Madagascar, we are considering that this afternoon. So we'll do tortoises and freshwater turtles, 78. Then we will do 29.3, Malagasy ebonies. And then my proposal would be then to come to the language strategy. And I am reserving discussions at this point in time on the review of resolutions and review of decisions, which are documents 26 and 27 at this point in time, to see whether we have time to get to those. So that is my proposed way forward. Look forward to the best use we can make of our last hour. So on document 78, tortoises and freshwater turtles, we have had proposed amendments from several parties, which in their substance create several new decisions, particularly directed towards Madagascar. So I had ensured that Madagascar had access to those decisions over the break. I will reopen discussion on the amendments proposed from the EU and the United States. Parties? Madagascar, you have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente de m'avoir donné la parole. Merci au secrétariat pour le rapport qu'il vient de faire. Le trafic d'espèces sauvages a pris une ampleur telle qu'il met à présent en péril la survie de certaines espèces, comptant parmi les plus emblématiques, dont les espèces de tortues de Madagascar. Ce trafic est un facteur d'insécurité, ce qui porte atteinte à l'état de droit. Madagascar attire l'attention des parties que parmi les principales raisons qui ont fait augmenter la collecte illégale et le braconnage des tortues terrestres figure la demande venant d'autres pays en tant que moteur du commerce illégal. S'agissant de la proposition de nouvelles décisions, nous remercions l'Union européenne et les USA sur son avis. Toutefois, Madame la Présidente, nous tenons à informer que Madagascar dispose d'un plan global d'action pour la conservation de nos 5 tortues endémiques, à savoir la grande tortue d'eau douce et les 4 terrestres, dont la tortue radiée. Nous pouvons partager à l'Union européenne et aux USA le document s'il veut bien l'accepter. S'agissant du paragraphe 4 du présent document 78, Madagascar a soumis des rapports y afférents et le comité permanent a constaté de ces mises en œuvre. Concernant les échanges d'informations et de renseignements, nous tenons à préciser, Madame la Présidente, l'importance de la collaboration entre les agences de l'application de la loi des parties pour traduire en justice les criminels et complices impliqués dans la chaîne du commerce illégal. Dans ce sens, dernièrement, au mois d'août et du mois d'octobre, 3 cas de saisie ont été constatés aux Comores. Nous avons demandé le partage des informations entre les agences d'application de la loi sur les éventuels complices pour ouvrir les enquêtes à notre niveau. Nous remercions l'organe de gestion CITES du Comore pour leur collaboration et nous continuons à la protection de notre biodiversité. En outre, nous avons initié des réunions avec le bureau des Interpol, Madagascar, Cameroun et Lyon et des pays de l'Asie du Sud-Est au mois de septembre 2022 pour le partage des informations sur le circuit, le mode opératoire et le cas échéant, le trafic en ligne. Et d'autre part, nous avons échangé sur les criminels ou groupes criminels identifiés afin de formuler les besoins en matière d'opérations conjointes et d'appui et assistance de la part d'Interpol ou des membres de l'Interpol. S'agissant du guide d'identification des tortues terrestres et tortues d'eau douce produit par le secrétariat, c'est un outil très important pour les agences d'application de la loi pour les aider dans la reconnaissance des espèces concernées. Le partage de ce guide aux parties et pays potentiels de destination est important.
Madagascar porte attention Madame la Présidente, suivant le temps imparti, nous ne pouvons pas garantir d'avoir une nouvelle stratégie globale de conservation pour les 4 espèces mentionnées à la prochaine session du Comité pour les animaux. Sur la base de ces informations, Madame la Présidente, nous rejetons la nouvelle proposition de l'Union européenne. Sur ce, je termine mon intervention. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madagascar. I have India on my list. I would also invite the European Union and the United States if they would like to reflect upon Madagascar's statement. I would be interested to hear, so I will give India the floor. India.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving another opportunity to speak on this issue. India would like to thank CITES Secretariat for lauding India's commendable efforts and achievements in CoP19 Doc 78 in Para 14 of the Wildlife Crime Control Bureau and enforcement agencies of Government of India in nailing down offenders involved in illegal trade of turtles and making several seizures under the Operation Turtle Shield 2. So this is also put on record that India introduced a proposal to list Batagar Kachua in Appendix 2, which has already been accepted in Committee 1. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, India. I have the Democratic Republic of the Congo. You have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente. Je pense que le document tel que présenté par le Madagascar tient compte des enjeux de la conservation et apporte son soutien à ces documents et rejette les propositions telles que présentées par les États-Unis et l'Union européenne. Merci.
Thank you, Democratic Republic of the Congo. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Madagascar. We appreciate that you would not have time to prepare a conservation strategy ready for assessment at the Animals Committee's 33rd meeting. We are wondering if you could consider a later Animals Committee, if this would be possible, or another option would be to publish and make available the conservation strategy that you mentioned that you already have available. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. I will give Madagascar the opportunity to speak if you are ready. I think it would be useful to have a dialogue on this. Madagascar, if you're ready, you're welcome to take the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Effectivement, nous remercions le soutien donc, de la République démocratique du Congo et nous apprécions aussi les remarques qui ont été soulevées par l'Union européenne dans ce sens. Nous acceptons à ce qu'il y ait un dialogue qui sera conduit dans le cadre de ce sujet. Merci Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madagascar. I was referring to a response, a dialogue to the European Union's proposed suggestions. So what I heard from them was they were prepared to amend their draft decisions to invite you to submit a report to a later meeting of the Animals Committee. So perhaps the 34th meeting of the Animals Committee, which would be 12 months after the 33rd meeting, roughly. Or alternately, they have suggested that you could be requested to publish the existing global plan for protection, I think you referred to it as. So they're offering, I think, as I understand it, perhaps some amendments to their draft decisions. Madagascar?
Merci Madame la Présidente. Nous acceptons donc cette proposition de décision. Dans ce sens, nous allons établir un nouveau rapport lors de la session ultérieure, donc éventuellement la 34e session, et puis nous sommes d'accord également pour publier le rapport qui est déjà en notre possession. Merci Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madagascar. European Union, I'm turning to you to see your reaction to that commitment from Madagascar. European Union, if you'd like the floor.
Yes, thank you. And we would like to thank Madagascar for cooperating and being ready to publish a conservation strategy for the 34th meeting of the Animals Committee for assessment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, European Union. So before I sum up, I just wanted to acknowledge that we also have the amendment proposal, or the new decision proposal from the United States, which I read as encouraging Madagascar to undertake the activities in CoP19 document 78, paragraph 4, B1 through little 4. I understand that Madagascar has also reflected on those and seems willing to and already committed in some circumstances to having done that. The Secretariat has helpfully put in front of me a consolidated decision which combines the EU proposal with the US's proposal. And so I'm hearing Madagascar's agreement and the EU's welcome that we will amend all of the references in the EU's draft decisions to the 34th meeting of the Animals Committee. With that, I think we have reached a good agreement. And I conclude that the committee will adopt the new draft decisions proposed by the EU with the addition of the US's amendment that the Secretariat will consolidate. So those are new decisions 19CC, 19EE, 19FF on my page for those following along. Okay, thank you everyone. I was just making sure I'd collected everything. So with that, I think we also agree to delete decisions 18.226 to 18.291 as they've been implemented. And that concludes our discussion on this document. I unconclude because the Secretariat has reminded me that I just read out decisions CC, EE and FF. We also, as I understood it, agreed to 19AA and 19BB in the annex to document 78. So with Madagascar's agreement, I would like to move to CoP19 document 29.3, Malagasy palisanders and rosewoods, Dalbergia species, and Ebonies, Diosporus species. This document has been prepared by the Secretariat in consultation with the Chair of the Standing Committee. I'd like to invite the Secretariat to introduce the document. Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. At COP18, the Conference of the Parties adopted a set of decisions on Dalbergia and Diospyros SPP. These decisions mainly concern the identification of the main commercially valuable species and the development of non-detriment findings. In addition, they relate to the strengthening of control and enforcement measures against illegal logging and export, as well as the inventory and marking of existing stockpiles. At SC 74, the Standing Committee made several recommendations, including the renewal of the recommendation to the parties not to accept exports or re-exports for commercial purposes from Madagascar for specimens of these species. The Standing Committee also agreed to propose to CoP19 the renewal of paragraph F of Decision 18.96 with some amendments. This paragraph concerns the securing of existing stocks of Dalbergia and Diospyros timber in Madagascar, their inventory and the revision of a use plan. At SC 74, the Standing Committee recommended amending paragraph F of Decision 18.96 by deleting the wording subject to available funding and the reference to the use plan, since the Minister of Environment of Madagascar stated that the government no longer intended to export the officially controlled stocks and that only domestic use was envisaged. According to these new considerations, the domestic use of officially controlled stocks appears to be outside the scope of the Convention, and therefore it is now proposed to delete the reference to the use plan in paragraph F. At SC 74, the Secretariat also noted that in recent years there has been some overlap between the decisions adopted by the Conference of the Parties and the recommendations of the Standing Committee on this issue. A detailed comparison of CoP18 decisions and SC 74 recommendations is available in Annex 2 of this document. In order to avoid challenges in aligning the different COP decisions and Standing Committee recommendations in the future, the Secretariat proposes the adoption of a new set of decisions as set out in Annex 1 and the deletion of the COP18 decisions that are already covered by the Standing Committee's recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Secretariat. So I will open the floor to parties. Thank you, Madagascar. You have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente, de m'avoir donné la parole. Je profite de cette première prise de parole, notamment pour remercier la République de Panama pour son accueil chaleureux et l'organisation de cet événement si important. D'emblée, Madame la Présidente, nous tenons à déclarer que Madagascar souhaite avancer effectivement dans la résolution du sujet concernant les bois précieux. Nous souhaitons notamment remercier le secrétariat d'avoir reconnu les efforts considérables qui ont été entrepris par le gouvernement malagasy, notamment sous la présidence de son Excellence Monsieur le Président Andjnirina Rajoelina, avec l'aide de nos partenaires. Nous sommes également conscients, Madame la Présidente, de l'endémicité de nos bois précieux qui, on le sait, ont subi des pressions et qu'une continuité de nos efforts doivent être davantage valorisés et intensifiés et que des progrès dans la mise en œuvre de la décision sont donc nécessaires. Quant aux efforts réalisés, en effet, depuis la mise en œuvre de la décision 18.96 qui nous a été adressée, nous avons progressé sur différents points. Certains sont effectifs, d'autres sont encore en cours et d'autres sont donc à renforcer. Depuis l'année 2015, notamment, aucun bois précieux n'est sorti du territoire national malagasy, notamment grâce à l'application de notre politique de la tolérance zéro. Des progrès sur les activités relatives aux aspects scientifiques, sur les identifications des espèces, notamment par la mise en place des laboratoires nationaux suivant des normes internationales ont été effectuées et reconnues. Nous avons les activités relatives au système de traçabilité qui sont actuellement en cours. Et puis, reste à renforcer toutes les mesures de contrôle et de surveillance, bien évidemment, aux frontières et dans nos aires protégées. Quant à la gestion des stocks, Madame la Présidente, nous souhaitons vous transmettre que Madagascar, en collaboration avec nos partenaires techniques et financiers, a donc décidé de procéder étape par étape. Pour cela, nous travaillons actuellement sur l'utilisation au niveau uniquement national des stocks saisis par la mise en place d'une technologie de marquage du bois et de sa traçabilité qui est donc en cours. Et nous travaillons également sur l'assistance juridique, sur le statut donc juridique et l'accès au stock avec une proposition de plan d'utilisation national et uniquement national. Dans ce sens, Madame la Présidente, nous réitérons nos remerciements pour la reconnaissance de ces efforts par les différentes parties, et nous n'avons pas d'objection particulière quant aux commentaires et aux observations du secrétariat dans son rapport à la COP19. En revanche, concernant la proposition de décision présentée par le secrétariat dans l'annexe 1 du document 29.3, le gouvernement malgache souhaite apporter quelques reformulations si ce ne sont que des améliorations du paragraphe 19.aa adressé à Madagascar, des améliorations qui soient représentatives des efforts réalisés et des efforts que toutes les parties ont reconnus. Si vous le permettez, Madame la Présidente, je vais donc citer notre proposition d'amélioration en énumérant les parties que nous avons retirées et ceux que nous avons maintenus, puis les phrases dont nous souhaitons remplacer. Donc 19.aa, petit a, nous souhaitons retirer « sécurise les stocks », y compris les stocks non déclarés et dissimulés, et remplacer par « renforce la gestion de tous les stocks de bois » de Dalbergia SPP et Diospyros SPP de Madagascar. Et nous rajoutons notamment par le système de traçabilité et de contrôle. Nous rajoutons également sollicite l'assistance des parties et des partenaires techniques et financiers pour sa mise en œuvre, le reste inchangé. Je continue donc et soumets au comité permanent des actualisations régulières des inventaires vérifiés de ces bois et des informations sur des mécanismes de contrôle indépendants pour examen et orientation complémentaire du comité permanent. Ce qui donne donc 19.aa, petit a, renforce la gestion de tous les stocks de bois de Dalbergia SPP et Diospyros SPP de Madagascar, entre parenthèses, notamment par le système de traçabilité et de contrôle, je ferme la parenthèse, sollicite l'assistance des parties et des partenaires techniques et financiers pour sa mise en œuvre, et je continue, soumet au comité permanent des actions régulières, des inventaires vérifiés de ces bois et des informations sur des mécanismes de contrôle indépendants pour examen et orientation complémentaire du comité permanent. Nous tenons à préciser, Madame la Présidente, que ces propositions d'amélioration ont suscité donc plusieurs échanges et ont été faites en concertation avec différentes parties que nous souhaitons remercier ici. Par ailleurs, nous souhaitons tout de même apporter quelques précisions sur l'utilisation du mot dissimulé, qu'à notre sens prête confusion dans sa compréhension et dans la mesure où, à part les stocks saisis juridiquement, tous les stocks non déclarés sont automatiquement saisis. Pour renforcer nos efforts dans la mise en œuvre de la dite décision, Madame la Présidente, nous sollicitons ainsi l'appui et les collaborations des parties ainsi que des partenaires techniques et financiers. Nous sommes donc ouverts aux observations, Madame la Présidente. Honorable assistance, je vous remercie de votre attention. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madagascar. I have a few more parties requesting the floor. United States.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The United States applauds Madagascar's efforts with regard to precious woods, and in particular, the progress it has made on the numerous tasks related to species identification and other scientific issues. We support adoption of the draft decisions found in Annex 1 to document COP19, Doc 29.3, as amended by Madagascar. In particular, we appreciate Madagascar's commitment to reinforce the management of all timber stockpiles. We look forward to hearing updates on the project Madagascar referenced on timber traceability, noting the critical importance of ensuring that no illegally harvested timber enters the legal trade stream, including for domestic use or the production of artisanal handicrafts. We also encourage Madagascar to continue to ensure strong application of enforcement measures against illegal logging and associated trade, including seizures, investigations, arrests, prosecutions, and sanctions regardless of the title and level of responsibility of the offenders. The United States is a long-standing partner with Madagascar in its efforts to address illegal logging and associated trade, and we look forward to continuing to work with Madagascar and other partners to support the conservation of the island's unique and precious natural resources. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, United States. I will take Botswana. Botswana, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. Botswana would like to commend Madagascar for this important submission regarding the timber management of all timber stocks of Dalbergia and the Diosporus species. Information management is key for both flora and fauna. This will go a long way in the sustainable management and control of timber, particularly the species in question. Botswana fully supports the decision as revised by Madagascar. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Botswana. I will take Senegal and then Gabon. Senegal, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le problème posé par le Madagascar ne date pas d'aujourd'hui. Je me rappelle, lors du comité permanent tenu à ceci, en URSS, avant la COP18, le Madagascar avait dépêché le gouvernement autant pour moi, au ministre, pour venir plaider son engagement. Et ceci se répète aujourd'hui par la présence de leur ministre encore, ce qui veut dire que le gouvernement tient au sérieux ce problème. Au regard du réquisitoire qui a été relaté par la représentante du Madagascar, je crois bien le Sénégal, en tout cas, compte vraiment soutenir les projets de modification qui sont apportés par le Madagascar à la lumière de ces nouvelles orientations. Merci.
Thank you, Senegal. I will take Gabon, followed by the European Union. Gabon.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le Gabon salue les efforts consentis par Madagascar pour améliorer la gestion des espèces de Diospyros et de Dalbergia, tant du point de vue scientifique que de gouvernance. Le commerce illicite de ces espèces est une grande menace qui porte préjudice à la survie de ces espèces à l'état sauvage. Nous appuyons les projets de décision figurant en annexe 1 du document COP 19-29.3, tel que amendé par Madagascar. Nous exhortons les parties à soutenir Madagascar dans l'application efficace et efficiente des dispositions de la CITES. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Gabon. I will take the European Union, followed by the three remaining parties on my list, which will be Zimbabwe, Comoros and Niger. European Union.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We congratulate Madagascar on all the work carried out to date, and most especially in regards to the scientific work. We can support Decision 19AA directed to Madagascar with the majority of the new text suggested by Madagascar with regard to strengthening management of all stockpiles and seeking financial and technical assistance to carry out this work. As this brings forward some of our concerns raised at SC 75 on the amendment of 18.96F with regard to the management of all stockpiles and providing regular inventories to Standing Committee and ensuring independent oversight mechanisms. However, we would suggest that the paragraph still begin with Madagascar shall secure and strengthen the management of all stockpiles, as it was still not fully clear whether all stockpiles are fully secured centrally. We would highlight the particular need for the independent oversight mechanisms, and we're very glad to hear of the appointments of 3 consultants and the new ITTO projects to help with this work. We also highlight that we could not accept any exports or re-exports from Madagascar of specimens of Diospyros under Annotation 5 or Dalbergia under Annotation 15 until Madagascar has made legal acquisition findings and non-detriment findings for these species at the national level to the satisfaction of the Secretariat and the Chair of the Standing Committee. We also agreed that decisions 18.94 and 18.99 to 99 can now be deleted, as continued capacity building and dealing with illegal specimens will continue under the new draft decision 19BB, little a and b. We thank the Secretariat for all their work in aligning Standing Committee and COP recommendations and decisions under these new draft decisions, which provide the necessary clarity on actions for Madagascar and all parties. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. So Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. As Zimbabwe, we acknowledge that Madagascar has made significant progress in the implementation of Decision 1896 and promises to continue strengthening its monitoring systems. We therefore recommend that Madagascar's proposed amendments to the draft decisions in Annex 1 of Document 29.3 be incorporated for adoption. Thank you.
Thank you, Zimbabwe. Comoros and then Niger. Comoros.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Les Comores tiennent à féliciter Madagascar pour les efforts déployés quant à la gestion des stocks du bois intitulé dans ce dossier. Sur ce, nous appuyons le projet de décision tel qu'a été amendé par Madagascar et nous sollicitons aux autres pays d'appuyer cette décision pour le bon fonctionnement et la gestion du stock du bois tel qu'a été amendé par Madagascar. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Comoros. I did indicate that I was taking one more party, Niger. I think we are hearing a lot of support here. Niger, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente. Le Niger a suivi depuis des années l'engagement de Madagascar dans le cadre du renforcement de la gestion de ce stock de bois, tel indiqué dans la proposition. Si aujourd'hui, une personnalité de très haut niveau de Madagascar est là, ça c'est pas la première fois avec nous, cela veut dire que la question est d'ordre et d'importance pour ce pays. C'est pourquoi nous sollicitons le secrétariat d'appuyer Madagascar dans cette avancée et nous soutenons la proposition telle présentée par Madagascar. Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Niger. I think I'm comfortable summing up on this matter now. I did indicate that I was taking just one or two more parties, so I apologise to the parties requesting the floor. But I think we have a way forward here. I trust that you will let me conclude on this. So we have heard Madagascar's proposed amendments to 19AA(a). I will read those as I heard them in English, but we will come back to the French record to make sure we accurately pick up Madagascar's language. But as in English, I heard strengthen management of all Dalbergia SPP and Diosporous SPP stockpiles in Madagascar, open brackets, including through traceability and control systems, close bracket, and request financial and technical assistance thereof. We did also hear that the EU requested the maintenance of the word secure at the start of the paragraph, so it would read secure and strengthen. I think that should be acceptable. Madagascar, I take it that that's acceptable given your comments about your practices for securing stockpiles. So as I said, we will come back and make sure we have the French language correct. So I've heard support for the adoption of the remaining amendments. I have heard support for the adoption of Madagascar's amendments. So it's my conclusion that that is the recommendation of the committee. And I also thank you, European Union, for reminding us. My conclusion is that we can delete decisions 18.94 to 18.99 as they're covered by the Standing Committee's recommendations or carried forward in the draft decisions in Annex 1. Thank you. Madagascar, if you'd like to comment.
Merci Madame la Présidente de m'avoir passé la parole. Tout d'abord, je tiens à remercier les États-Unis, le Botswana, le Sénégal, le Gabon, le Zimbabwe, les Comores, le Niger et l'Union européenne pour avoir reconnu les efforts considérables que Madagascar a réalisés depuis donc plusieurs années. Je suis ici en tant que ministre de l'Environnement. J'ai tenu à être présente lors de cette COP CITES puisque les enjeux, je le rappelle, sur la gestion de ces bois précieux sont tellement importants pour Madagascar de par son endémicité. Merci aux soutiens qui sont apportés. Merci également à l'ouverture et aux différents échanges que nous avons eus hier notamment et pendant ces quelques jours parce que cette proposition de reformulation tient donc de divers échanges avec différentes parties prenantes et c'était une étape qui est très importante pour nous, pour Madagascar, que ce soit une démarche non pas unique mais une démarche inclusive et partagée par tous. Notamment, j'ai retenu, Madame la Présidente, donc qu'il y a effectivement une différenciation grammaticalement et phonétiquement sur le terme sécurisé. Donc je souhaite bien que ce soit confirmé que le terme que nous souhaitons retenir soit bien renforce la gestion de tous les stocks de bois. Merci Madame la Présidente pour la confirmation.
Thank you, Madagascar. Perhaps I was not clear. The EU was suggesting secure and strengthen. So it would maintain your strengthen and add secure and before strengthen. Thank you, Madagascar.
Merci Madame la Présidente d'avoir donné la parole. Je pense qu'effectivement, à notre sens, je souhaite vous expliquer, Madame la Présidente, ainsi qu'à toutes les parties, la raison pour laquelle nous avons décidé d'apporter cette proposition du terme renforcé, puisque il faut aussi, nous estimons que c'est important que les efforts de Madagascar, qui sont déjà reconnus dans le rapport du secrétariat, soient effectivement reconnus. Et dans cette formulation, la formulation renforcer les efforts, renforcer la gestion de tous les stocks inclut aussi les efforts que nous avons réalisés. Néanmoins, l'étape de renforcement inclut également la sécurisation des stocks. La sécurisation, ce n'est qu'une étape. La finalité, c'est le renforcement. Donc c'est dans ce sens, Madame la Présidente, que nous souhaitons maintenir notre position de garder la phrase « renforcer la gestion de tous les stocks » et de ne pas rajouter « renforcer et sécuriser les stocks ». Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madagascar. I'd like then to go back to the European Union on your proposal for secure and strengthen. Madagascar is indicating a preference to simply use strengthen, as the Minister has indicated. They think that securing stockpiles is simply part of strengthening. I will take any comment, European Union, that you have on Madagascar's explanation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, no, I suppose maybe it's the word maybe that's the issue. So I just wonder, do Madagascar feel that the stockpiles are now all secure? Is that what the Madam is saying? And you know, if she wants to use strengthen first, that's fine. Strengthen and secure, secure and strengthen. It's okay for us.
Thank you, European Union. Madagascar, would you like to respond?
Merci, Madame la Présidente, de m'avoir passé la parole pour une énième fois. Je pense que c'est important aussi de tenir en compte le rajout que nous avions mis, entre parenthèses, alors je rappelle la phrase que nous avons proposée, renforce la gestion de tous les stocks, donc tous les stocks, de Dalbergia, SPP, Diospéros, SPP de Madagascar, et nous avons rajouté, justement, pour élucider ce souci de sécurisation. Et d'ailleurs, là, c'est encore plus précis si on cherche à sécuriser, puisque nous avons marqué, entre parenthèses, notamment par le système de traçabilité et de contrôle. Je pense que c'est assez clair dans la démarche de sécurisation et nous souhaitons toujours maintenir notre position, Madame la Présidente, sur le terme renforce la gestion de tous les stocks, avec la parenthèse, notamment par le système de traçabilité et de contrôle. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Madagascar. I will turn back to the European Union. Thank you. EU.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to Madagascar for that clarification. Yes, so once we have the traceability and control systems, I think that's perfect for us. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. So I note that we will amend the paragraph simply with the language proposed by Madagascar, which I read out earlier, and I've indicated we will make sure picks up the correct French terminology. Very difficult when you're having it interpreted. So going back, I conclude, based on that fruitful discussion, I think, that we adopt the draft decisions on Malagasy palisanders and rosewoods, Dalbergia species and Ebonese Diospyros species as presented in Annex 1 to the present document as amended by Madagascar. And that we delete decisions 18.94 to 18.99. So I did commit to coming back to the language strategy, which is CoP19 document 8, and I will do so. I note that we have exactly 20 minutes left of our time together. I would like to see if we can come to a conclusion in 20 minutes on this. If we cannot, we will need to find another way forward. This is an important proposal. So as we have already had the matter introduced, and you'll recall that I asked the Budget Working Group to convene 2 sessions to particularly discuss the language strategy. The chair of the Budget Working Group has indicated earlier this afternoon that they could not reach a conclusion on the language strategy or the approach for the language strategy and has handed the matter back to me. With all of that context, I'd like to open the floor to parties on the language strategy, document 8. I'm going to take parties in the order that they've appeared on my screen. Kuwait, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking on behalf of Algeria, Morocco, Syria, Bahrain, Tunisia, Qatar, Kuwait, Jordan, Yemen, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Oman, Mauritania, Somalia, and Comoros, the Arabic-speaking countries present in this room. We would like to thank the CITES Secretariat for preparing this detailed, informative, and important document. As such, strategy will help all the 24 Arabic-speaking countries for better understanding and implementation of the Convention. Also, a better participation during the Conference of the Parties. It's the time for the Convention to be better enforced and understood in a wide range of the Arabic-speaking countries. Furthermore, with the agreement of China and Russia, I would like to propose to the committee for an amendment to the draft resolution for the budget and the work program for 2023 and 2025 as follows. If you may allow me to read the proposed amendment, Chair.
Please, Kuwait.
Decide for the translation of the resolutions and decisions in the 3 additional languages, Arabic, Chinese, and Russian, as one-time exercise and on an exceptional base to use $120 from the trust fund, accumulated surplus fund balance for the year 2023, and appreciate the in-kind contribution of China for making available the resolution and decision in the Chinese language. Secondly, decide on the provision of language services for interpretation in Arabic, Chinese, and Russian during the meeting of the Conference of the Parties by extra budgetary funding. The amount will be around $205,000. Request the Standing Committee at its 77th and 78th meetings to continue to consider the future approach to the language strategy for the Convention, while giving emphasis to the interpretation in all 6 UN languages at the Conference of the Parties, and suspect to external budgetary funding to make an appraisal to instigate such interpretation and at the next Conference of the Party. Furthermore, I just want to emphasize the importance of using the other UN language, as the Arabic language is used in 24 countries. We would like to be part of this convention and this community. We would like to have the right to express our opinion and have it here in the Conference of the Party. We will not go further for, as it is mentioned in the document, that might implicate for the enforcement and other matter if other languages uses. This is not the intention for us. We only interested to have our languages here in the Conference of the Party and have the right to communicate and discuss and be part of this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Kuwait. I see China. China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do not want to mention more about the benefits of adding 3 working languages. And I would like to say that at the meetings of Finance and Budget Subcommittee, we have a sufficient discussion of the language strategy. And I think we have some consensus to some extent. And on this issue, we are practical, and we fully understand that the issue of adding working languages is essentially a financial issue. And some states expressed concern that the language strategy might entail a substantial increase in the convention's budget. Nor do we want this issue to continue to put enormous pressure on the convention's budget. We are not currently seeking to implement option 1 in the Secretariat report. And the option 3 and 4, which actually are two compromises, we would like to support that. But considering that these two options still represent substantial increases in the budget, we would like to show further flexibility. And in order to promote consensus and in the spirit of cooperation, we have expressed that we support a new option that only requires additional interpretation service for COP and the later standing committee. Interpretation services at COP are needed by my delegation, since this service will help us better understand the views of various parties, correctly express our views, and better participate in the discussion of relevant topics. And we also agree that service will be supported by extra budgetary fund at this stage. And we also support an incremental language strategy. We agree to start from option 2 and interpretation service for COP sessions. I think we can reach a consensus on the CITES proposed decisions. And we can update the mandate and continue to discuss at the standing committee session.
Thank you, China. You have had 30 additional sections.
Thank you.
I'd welcome you to wrap up. Oh, thank you, China. So I'll take the European Union, and then the United States, and then Russia. European Union.
Thank you, Chair. We are not entirely satisfied with the way how the budget working group was managed, and we did not agree with referring the language strategy back to Committee 2. The EU and its member states think that more discussion was needed in the working group to understand positions of parties, and that there was a chance to reach consensus in the working group. As a consequence of leaving the language strategy out of the budget discussions, the costs of implementing the language strategy are not yet included in the budget and cannot be, therefore, considered together as was the original objective. For a number of reasons explained in the working group, the EU and its member states cannot agree with other language strategy scenarios except option 2, provided that it is funded from voluntary contributions. It is mostly from the voluntary contributions by the EU, Switzerland, US, and other parties that decisions of the COP are implemented, and we cannot agree with further diverting the limited financial resources to administrative tasks. We therefore suggest to adopt the proposed option 2 with the funding provided from voluntary contributions. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. I will take United States, followed by the Russian Federation. United States.
Thank you, Chair. Consistent with our previous intervention on this issue, the United States recognizes the benefits of making the Convention and its provisions available and accessible to as broad a community as feasible. However, we cannot ignore the substantial financial and administrative costs associated with expanding language services to additional languages. The United States participated in the budget working group sessions on this matter with the other invited parties. We have tried to show flexibility on this issue, and we are willing to support option 2 on an incremental basis. We remain opposed to including this in the core budget, and we cannot support anything other than option 2, using extra budgetary funds. We believe it can be funded through extra budgetary funds for translation of key resolutions and documents into the 3 additional languages presented. With regard to the proposal to use funds from the core budget, the United States participated in the working group, and we agree with the resolution that was adopted with the 6.18% increase in budget. Our policy is for true zero nominal growth. We are trying to be as flexible as possible, and we have sought and received instructions from Capital that allow us to support this 6.18% increase in budget to continue the operation of the Secretariat and activities core to CITES mandate. However, we're also happy to support an increase in funding for the critical work of UNEP WCMC. We are not in a position to support any further increase in the core budget. We would like to concur and heartily associate ourselves with the views expressed by the EU on this matter. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, United States. Russian Federation, you have the floor. Russian Federation, you might need to press your button once more. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The question of multilingualism has been a recurring issue on the agendas of many bodies of the United Nations system organizations. Using 6 languages is a source of better understanding among the parties. The prime objective of language arrangements for any meeting should be to provide to all participants an equal opportunity to contribute to the legislative process and to the formulation of the meeting's outputs. In order to reduce current imbalances in the use of languages within CITES, the Russian Federation asked parties to study presented by Kuwait Paras. If we are talking about good practices, the work within the Convention on Biodiversity is a good example of the use of the all UN languages, allowing a high number of national experts to be adequately, efficiently, and democratically included in the work of the Convention. Dear colleagues, we believe that such an all-comprising approach will greatly benefit the work of the CITES Convention by a greater engagement of national experts at all levels. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Russian Federation. My list of party speakers has remained static for some time, so I will close my list now. I have 3 more parties wishing to take the floor. I will take Senegal, and then Bahrain, and then Liechtenstein. Senegal, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. La diversité linguistique, certes, elle a un poids, mais c'est un mal nécessaire, parce que admettre ces 3 langues participerait d'une meilleure diffusion de la Convention aux différents peuples et à la communauté CITES. Je crois que la Chine a coupé la poire en 2 en disant l'option sur les coûts additionnels que ça pourrait apporter sur les traductions en termes d'interprétation lors des réunions du groupe, du comité permanent et des coopérants et des COP. Le Sénégal, sur ce point, donc, soutient la demande des 3 parties qui constitue au point de vue population quand même une énorme population. Merci.
Thank you, Senegal. Bahrain.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies for the mix-up with the request for the floor earlier. Bahrain would like to thank the Budget Committee for their hard work in studying the financing for the language options, and to thank Kuwait for presenting the draft resolution amendment, which Bahrain supports. We do see that it does build on Document 8's recommendation in paragraph 32B to draft a decision to continue the discussions on the establishment of a language strategy for the Convention. We would also like to note the Secretariat's acknowledgement of the importance of multilingualism in Document 8 to improve the implementation of the Convention. It almost goes without saying the importance of the eventual inclusion of the 6 UN languages. Firstly, in terms of accessibility, by providing equal participation opportunities for parties, and secondly, in that it optimizes efficient and effective decision-making through improved communication, which in turn means an improved and stronger implementation of the Convention. Effective and fair communication, which is the foundation of any successful agreement. The 6 UN languages achieves this by covering the widest range of parties, and we hope parties agree to strive towards this, towards a level playing field for the CITES parties, and support the draft resolution as presented by Kuwait. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Bahrain and Liechtenstein. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We can keep that short. It's about giving 2 billion people a voice in the Convention. Multilingualism is dear at heart for us at the United Nations system. Therefore, we are in full support of the very reasonable proposal of Kuwait. Thank you much.
Thank you, Liechtenstein. I will just take a moment to confer. Thank you, everyone. I have listened to our discussions, and it's clear to me that we are not in agreement on the best way forward here. And I note that Kuwait has just introduced a new proposal that has not been submitted online or published online, so it will have been new to a number of you. What I would like to propose, and what I think is the best way forward, because this matter does warrant due consideration in my view, is that we request Kuwait to submit a ComDoc as soon as possible. We will endeavour to have that translated as soon as possible so it is available to all of you. That Committee 2 will not attempt to take a decision on this today, and that we will consider the matter in plenary when the document 8 is introduced. So that is my proposed way forward. I think that gives us all a moment to consider the proposals that are on the table. I've heard several parties speaking in favour of option 2 in the document, but we have that in front of us. So my proposal is that we also put Kuwait's proposal in front of us. and then we consider tomorrow in plenary. It's always my intention to get through my full working program, but I do think in this case that another evening's consideration and language on pieces of paper will be helpful. So I don't see any further parties requesting the floor, so I conclude that we will... Sierra Leone.
Thank you, Chair. Before we close on this, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to Panama, since this is the first time Sierra Leone is taking the floor in this committee, and also to congratulate the Chair for her appointment as Chair of Committee Room 2. I will not do justice to myself and to my country if I don't add my voice to the issue of importance of languages, particularly noting the multifaceted nature of the various countries with regards to languages. Already at the convention, at the meetings for the past 1 or 2 weeks or 1 week, we all will agree that languages are very important because that is the means of communication. When we go, whether it is side events, for example, or when we meet and try to discuss the issues here that are important to parties, languages are very important. So I'd like to add my support that we should allow the 6 official UN languages, Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Russian, and Spanish, to be considered, and that the language strategy that is proposed by the Secretariat is very important, and I will want to encourage all parties to support this particular strategy. I thank you.
Thank you, Sierra Leone. I don't want to continue too much more discussion on this here. I've proposed a way forward. There is still an opportunity to discuss this further in plenary. You will notice that we have passed 5 p.m. So I hope the agreement of the committee that is the way we will go forward. We will come to Kuwait to get the language so that we can have that published. I will encourage you to keep an eye on the website. So we will also take, as I indicated earlier, item 26, review of resolutions, and item 27, review of decisions in the plenary. So it is now for me to conclude. Secretary-General, parties, observers, Secretariat. This afternoon we have almost completed our deliberations and we have almost completed our working program. Tomorrow the plenary will reconvene to consider our recommendations. In my opening remarks, I highlighted, in my experience, the CITES community is made up of committed, passionate, constructive people. Our discussions over the last week and a bit have not changed my mind, even though I am sick of hearing myself reminding you to take your seats and put your voting cards in your consoles. There will be time to reflect on the content of our discussions in the plenary over the next 2 days. So I wanted to take the time here to reflect on and thank you for the manner in which you've conducted yourself in our deliberations. Thank you for your spirit of contribution, compromise where possible, and kindness to each other. Thank you for respecting my requests and being considerate of each other's wishes to be heard. Finally, thank you for keeping in mind our shared goal and ensuring where possible that we maintained a focus on our enormous responsibility to protect the world's wildlife. My personal thanks in particular to the Secretary-General and the CITES Secretariat. Although I've been around this convention for almost 15 years, my unique perspective on the preparation for and execution of a COP have given me a new insight into their diligence, their commitment, their flexibility, and their general brilliance as individual people. We are lucky parties to have this incredible team supporting us, not just here at COP19, but every day. It's very unfair to call out a single member of the Secretariat to thank, but I do absolutely have to particularly thank Tia who has, you might have noticed, almost not left my side. When she's not directly supporting me, you might have noticed that she's also one of the main architects of this meeting, a dual role that almost defies possibility. Also, my personal thanks to the many delegates and participants who've wished me well over the last several days or offered words or smiles of encouragement in the halls. Thank you to those current and former chairs of the permanent committees and past COP committees for your support and advice. And of course, thank you again to the Australian delegation and to my friends for their constant support. I'll do my best to represent you, Committee 2, in the upcoming plenary sessions as I present our recommendations. I look forward to seeing our well-considered, thorough, and sometimes difficultly agreed recommendations formally adopted by the COP. In conclusion, thank you for trusting me in this role, for putting up with my firmness and accommodating the moments when I lost my place, asked you to repeat yourself, or had to limit our discussions. It's been a professional challenge, a personal thrill, and an enormous honour. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Oh, I get to use the thing. Thank you, Committee 2.